Hi. As you know, um, I've been looking at play schemas on my channel recently, and I've also worked um, with some schools on play schemas as well. And what we're going to look at today is I've sort of put the play schemas in a mnemonic order for myself so that I can easily remember them. And the mnemonic order that I've done is protect. So I couldn't do protect dead because it didn't end in a T. I had several T's to think about. So it's protect. And the first one is the positioning schema. And I've been working with a little boy for the last 18 months who's recently been diagnosed as autistic. Certainly, I said 18 months ago that he most definitely had communication difficulties because he wasn't talking at that age of just over 2. And so, it was far too early to expect a diagnosis from the medical profession of autism at that time. But certainly, any professional working in the field would definitely say that he had communication difficulties because he wasn't talking. And as I've said, he's recently been diagnosed as autistic. But one of the things that he loved to do was the positioning schema. And so he had all of these animals. Well, these are the animals I took there for him. He had a set of his own, and I do believe I've come away with one of his animals because I certainly didn't have this very large black dog in this group of zoo animals. Got it now, so I must return it. Hope he's not missing it. So there are zebras and lions and tigers and leopards. And many others, I'm sure, in this bag of tricks here. And so what he would do is he would get down on the floor in his grandmother's house, actually, and he would line them up against one of the walls in a particular order. So, if I lined these up now, I would tend to, this is just the way that I would do it, is I would place one of each kind behind each other before moving on to the next one. Now, he didn't do it like that. His way of doing it was totally different to how I would have envisaged it. And it took a while to work out what the pattern was that he was making. So it's absolutely fascinating when you watch somebody who's who's wrapped up in the positioning schema and has got a certain pattern that they want to get out of their system on that particular morning. It changed another morning to patterns of colour that he was putting them in a kind of colourful pattern. So he put all the reddish animals together, and the white zebras, white and black zebras, all went at the back of it all. So it was obviously meant a lot to him, but he wasn't up for communicating what it meant, and so it was a good thing to observe. So you will get a lot of children who will want to order things. Now, this is a play schema, so it's any child, neurotypical or neurodivergent, who would get wrapped up in this particular play schema because it's a very important schema to develop and to use. It's very useful because it helps them to put things to create order out of chaos, as it were. If you spot a child in nursery, for instance, who is repeatedly returning to the positioning schema, although at one stage they would just visit it regularly as part of their play, and then all of a sudden they are coming into your early years setting, whether it's in a charity or whether it's in a state school or a private school or wherever, and they're suddenly coming in and they're repeatedly having to go over to the positioning schema play equipment. And so they're needed to do that. Now, you need to then look around at what is going on in the environment. So is it so noisy that they're returning to this because it's helping them to create order out of the chaos around them. Is that the reason? Are they stressed out for any reason that they feel the need to constantly do this? Now, sometimes it will be something that they need to explore all the different areas of it, the different patterns that they want to create and so on. And they just need to keep on revisiting that particular play schema because it's helping them sort things out in their minds and so on. Now, you can, obviously, there are different ways of developing this play schema. It hasn't just got to be with giving them sets of cars or animals or dinosaurs or blocks or any of those kind of things. It can be that you do some art with them, and so they're making repeated patterns with stickers or colours if they're ready to, if they've developed their fine motor skills. And of course, this particular schema helps them develop their fine motor skills because most of the things that they tend to choose in the positioning schema are small things. Like, for instance, Archie will get a load of little stones, actually, and he will put those stones in some kind of order that means something to him. And it's allowing them to develop this positioning schema because it is very useful. I mean, one of the things I would say that you've got to be careful of is that to be conflict aware. So, for instance, sometimes I found that children will take up quite a large part, like, for instance, Archie took up quite a large part of his grandmother's room. She didn't mind, thankfully, where he was lining up all of the animals. And in schools, sometimes that can be difficult, or your centres, whatever your centre is there for. It could be an early years setting. It could be children who've got specific needs who are at the centre. And we have to bear in mind that when we think of specific needs, sometimes those needs include mobility needs. And so you have to provide the opportunity for those children to develop this particular positioning schema despite their mobility issues. So you have to find ways around it to adapt so that they can still have the opportunity to explore that particular schema, especially if it's an important schema for them that they really do feel the need to overcome, to ensure that it's part and parcel of their armour, their ammunition, their how they cope with the world as it is. So it is a very, as I've said, a very important schema to help all children have the opportunity to develop and perfect. So some of the ways of dealing with the conflict of where is this going to go is that you can have a special table in the room that's dedicated to particular, and you can have little trays like this. So you can keep the tray and it goes in a certain place. You can have notices around your centre that says that all construction is dismantled on a Friday afternoon, for instance. Or you could have that at the end. I mean, if it's a very busy centre, it could be that you have to do that at the end of every day. But then you would have big rules up saying that, and you would explain it to the children regularly. And of course, it has to be fair so that every child realises that everybody is being treated the same. And it has to be said several times over because they may be off somewhere when you say it the first time. They could be exploring something and their focus is not on you at all. It's on something totally different. And therefore they haven't taken in what you've said. So it has to be said in many different ways, many different times, so that they realise that. Because if they haven't realised it, they will probably get upset. And to be honest, there's nothing worse than stepping on a plastic animal, whether you're an adult or a child, because it does hurt if you've got, if you haven't got strong shoes on, and you tend not to have in these places. So it can hurt if they're left out. But as well as that, it can upset children who want to use some of the equipment that's been already used in that in that schema. So that's why, really, in a way, it has to either go away, or it has to be made plain to everybody that this particular construction is there for the week, or is there for the day, or whatever. And you need to let children know that, and you need to let parents know it as well, because if their child comes home distressed, it could well be that their construction was put away and they're upset about it. Eventually, as long as you stick to a routine of what you do, and it's the same for everybody, then children will eventually get used to it. And obviously, the first time that a young child or a child with learning difficulties sees that happening, they may well be upset, and it will take a little while for them to get used to the fact that this is what happens with construction kits, this is what happens with lineups and so on. They get put away because somebody might get hurt, somebody could step on them, somebody could break them, so on and so forth. So there has to be some kind of rules, and they must be visual as well for children to be able to see. And we have to bear in mind that that children have lots of different disabilities. Some may not be able to see very well, some may not be able to hear very well, and so on and so forth. So there has to be different ways of explaining these things so that all children understand. And so I think basically that's the positioning schema, but you can think about the positioning schema and using it in day-to-day things. So it might be that you want some children to help put out the snack at snack time, and that would be in a particular position where that goes. And so children who are really into the positioning schema and want to develop that skill will want to be involved in that kind of thing. Same with lunchtime, with putting things out for lunch and so on. And also for tidy up time is another good way to use the positioning schema, and being able to put things in a set place. This is where they go, this is everything needs to be cleared up perhaps on this tray, and then these trays go to a specific place and so on. So it's trying to ensure that you include these place schemas in everyday routines so that children still get a chance to practice these things as well. So let me think whether I've left anything out at all about place schemas, positioning schema. I don't really think so. I think it's a schema that is it's a really nice schema for children to get involved in. It helps them so much in their development, in developing different skills. So developing fine motor skills, spatial awareness, and helping them to become organised, obviously. So I'm going to leave it there for today, because I've got two dogs who you might be heard making some noises about the place because they want to be fed. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and see you again soon when we probably talk about the rotational schema. If I've left anything out, or there was something that you wanted to know more about, just put it in the comments below. Give a thumbs up if you want to hear some more from me about place schemas, or sensory profiling, or communication checklists, or bedtime routines, or the diet of the gut-brain connection. Any of these kind of things that I would work with and do a heck of a lot of research before I actually do conferences and presentations and so on. So let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. Thank you.